Good morning. I'm Lavanya, here introducing Megha Gajala, co-founder and COO at MentorMind. MentorMind is an online platform where students and young professionals can access and work on real-time work situations in the form of challenges. Megha Gajala is a BTech graduate and completed her master's from ESSECB Business School. She worked as a vice president, national support manager, national trainer, and director of operations at AIESEC in Hyderabad. Ma'am worked as intern consultant at BTS, graduate assistantship, and SSEC Business School, and also junior consultant at ESSEC Capgemini. Ma'am, I'm handing session to you, ma'am. You can continue, ma'am.
Sure. Thank you, ma'am. How is everybody today? I know that it's the morning session for you, and I also know that I think it might be compulsory for you to attend, right? So, is it possible for some of you to turn on your video? Whoever can, it'd be great to see your video. Um, Otherwise, we'll get started. So, yes, today is going to be about problems, and we're going to talk about how we solve them. We talk about what can we do with these problems and how do we break them down. So, before I get started, I need you to do two things for the students. The first one is say hi in the chat box. So I know I'm not talking to robots, but I'm actually speaking to a few students. So if you can say hi in the chat box, that'll be great. We'll wait for 1 minute. It's 11:07. We'll wait till 11:08. Great. Good morning. Anyone else? Great. So good morning and hello. It's all about problems. Ma'am has already given my introduction. I basically did a few things and a few experiences, and right now I am the COO and the co-founder of MentorMind. Right, so let's get started. We all have problems. Would you agree? You can just use the chat box and say yes or no. Do you have problems in your daily life in general? Yes, we all have them, right? Right. And these are problems that can be very small, like maybe something which an appliance at home, like the iron box or the istri petti is not working because the socket went off, or really big problems like, okay, I'm graduating next year. I need to get a job. I have to do interview preparation, or I have exams, or someone is not well. So we all have these problems, correct? Anybody feels they don't have problems in life? It's okay to say yes. There was a time when I also thought, no, I no problems at all. But do you all feel like you have of at least one problem in life as a student today who study? Yes or no? Again, use the chat box. Okay, moving forward. So today's session is to help you use a framework, that is, use a method to solve any problem, whether it's a problem that exists in your world or in your life. And this tool or method or framework, as we call it, is used by a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of people in different businesses. So by the end of today, you will learn a 5-step process that you are going to be able to use wherever you go. And trust me, it's a skill that interviewers ask for. Have you all like seen or heard of some interview questions in any of your classes or online? Yes or no? Again in the chat box. Okay. So looks like there's only one person who's responding. We're going to do a quick activity to make sure that everybody's here. If you can hear me and you're able to understand everything I am saying, say the word, and I'm going to type it in the chat box. Say the words. It's great. How are you feeling? Let's see how many of you actually paid attention to what I said right now. If you've
It's great.
understood what I said, there you go. So good job. Anyone else? In the chat box, if you've understood it, say, type the words out. It's great. Let's see.
It's great. Girls, can't you say this? Respond now.
Okay, so it looks like only one of you are able to understand it. Don't worry, we'll catch up over the call. Now, what you in the session with me in general, in any session with me, one thing that is very clear is I'm going to make everyone do something. It'll be a lot of fun, I promise, but I'm going to make you do a little bit because that's the only way we get to learn, right? So I'm going to share a link. This is where we're going to be doing the session, as in it's going to continue on Google Meet, but I'm going to give you a few instructions or you can share a few things once you join this link. Okay, so how many of you have heard of Discord? Have you used this app? You can say yes or no in the chat box. How many of you have used Discord? It's an app. No. So, not a lot of you have used Discord. That's okay. No problem. I'm assuming a lot of you are on your phone. Yes, if you're on your phone, go to the Google Play Store or the iOS and download, look for the app Discord, right? Meanwhile, I'm going to share a link in the chat box. You need to join the link. It's 11:13. I'm going to give you 5 minutes to do all of this. So 11:18, by that time you need to join the link. So this is for everyone. I'm just going to quickly share the link. There you go. Click on the link in the chat box and join the link. It will take you to Discord. It's okay, it's a good app. You will learn a lot from it. You can download that and join. As soon as you are able to join, I will know. I can see the dashboard here. And if you have any trouble, you can ask me. So it's 11:13, 5 minutes. You need to join Discord. It's 11:15. You have 3 more minutes to join it. Is anyone facing any trouble?
Taking time, madam, to download.
Okay, ma'am, no problem. We'll,
Yeah,
we'll
yeah.
wait for a few more minutes.
Okay, madam.
So we have one student already has joined. Looking forward to more of y'all there. So we've created a space specifically for the students of uh, this college today for this session. So you can feel free to use that space, which is the channel, to talk to each other. You could talk to me, etc. So I know this is taking time, and I trust that all of you are doing it. So we'll just take 2 more minutes. I know this is taking time, but don't worry, it will be something that you can take back. It's taking 2 more minutes, and then we'll move forward.
Ma'am, it is taking time. Let's
Yes, ma'am.
continue with.
We'll move forward, no problem. I was just waiting
Okay.
till 11:20. So it's just a space that we could use to have a chat. So whoever is joining, take your time. Don't worry, you can join throughout the session. We'll move ahead. So what we're going to do now, the first step of of any problem solving process is to list all of our problems, right? So what we're going to do is you can use this chat box, but as a student, what are some of the challenges that you face, right? What are some of the struggles that you face? And I know your mams are on this call, but I'm sure I can promise you that they're here only to listen as well. But for the sake of this, you can for the sake of the activity, list any challenge that you face as a student. So let me start. As when I was a student, one of the difficulties I faced was taking down a lot of notes very quickly in class, right? But I'm sure you will have a similar problem or different kinds of problems. So if one or two of you can share any problem that you think as a student you actively face, or not just you but you feel your friends who are students, they face these problems as well. So anyone has any problem in mind right now? Anybody? Harika, Nisha, Charlotte, Akhila, Nancy, Srividya, Monica. Anyone? Any problem that comes to your mind? Prasanna? Anything that's difficult. I know, for example, attending online classes is very, very challenging, right? Sometimes because there's so many network issues, you can't hear properly or the earphones are not working. Anyone has any challenges like that? You can name one challenge. Anybody? Assignments. Okay. So is assignments a challenge, ma'am? Homework. All right. What else?
Yes, ma'am. At a time, all the faculty will give assignments, no?
Right.
And
Right.
Nisha
So,
ma'am is a senior faculty.
sorry?
Nisha madam,
Yes.
yeah, she is a senior faculty of the department, madam.
Okay, ma'am. Nice to meet you. So, what are the challenges? Any other challenges that the students you see yourself facing?
Ma'am, can I?
Yes, please go ahead, Nancy.
Ma'am, while posting the internet issues will come at the peak of the time. So we'll
Sorry?
complete the work. We'll complete the work at time, but while posting, it will become late.
Correct. So I'm sure you have deadlines, right? Like 9 p.m. on Friday, this assignment has to be submitted. And then
Yes,
the
ma'am.
network will become difficult and it doesn't go, right? And also giving presentations online. I know this. I've been a part of giving presentations online as a student also. And I know it's very difficult because when you're physically there, it's a little more easier sometimes. So we've gotten quite a few challenges that say every student goes through, right? So let's look at how we could solve these problems. So let's pick that one problem in general, and let's see how we could solve this. So the first step of the problem solving active, like say framework or tool or method, is called empathize. So the first step that we did just now, which is, though we did it only for a couple of minutes, it's done a lot more in depth. It's done through conversations with different kind of people. But basically, the first step to the problem solving method and to solving any problem in general is to know what is it that the student or the target audience cares about. So as students, you will know what you are facing the best, and the best entrepreneurs in all over the world actually create companies out of problems that they face, right? So that's the reason why I asked you, why not tell me a few problems that you face as a student, because then it's easier to solve, not just for you but for everybody. So the first thing is to empathize, is to understand for a given target audience, that is for a specific group of people, right? What are the problems that they are facing, and when you're doing this step, when you are identifying what all they care about, there are two things that you need to do. The first is always conduct interviews, right? So if I were speaking to Nancy, I would ask her a lot more questions. For example, I would ask her, not right now, but I would ask her, what exactly happens when you try to upload? Is what kind of issues do you see popping up? Are there too many buttons, maybe, or is the internet slow, or is the website slow? So there are different kind of challenges that they will, like talk about, and don't just talk to one person who's or one from the target audience. So, for example, if I was solving this problem with Nancy, I shouldn't just speak to Nancy. I should speak to all of y'all, all the students, as many as possible, and conduct these interviews, right? Then the second thing that you do is you need to dig a little deeper. So when, say, Nancy, when she gave this example, might have been thinking of of an instance that she went through herself. Maybe there was an assignment she couldn't upload in time, and it affected, her grade or her marks. So it's a very personal story, which is why it's a problem that she would want solved. And hence, once you speak to as many people as possible, you conduct interviews, you get to know what is it that they care about, then you ask for personal stories. Hi, can you tell me an instance or a story when this happened to you? And the more you listen to a lot of the issues, or the more you listen to people of a specific group, you will hear similar problems, right? So sometimes, let's take another example. I'm sure most of you would have interacted with your amama tata or nanama tata, your grandparents. Yes? You can say just yes or no in the chat box. You have spoken to them, you have interacted with them. Yes? Have you all spoken to your grandparents? No one's spoken to their grandparents. That can't be true. Anyone else? Okay, so in the chat box, you can definitely share. So, when you've spoken to your grandparents, have you seen how they probably tell you, they all ask you, have you eaten? Right? Every time you say speak to your grandmother or your grandfather, they ask you if you've eaten, right? And when they ask you if you've eaten, do you think and even if you say no or if you say yes, they're still going to give you food, correct? And they really, like, say, even however old they are, they tend to struggle a little bit, but they'll make sure they give you something to eat. Have you all been through this? Has anybody else been through this? Yes or no? Some of you have been through this, right? So the faculty have also been through it. So it's something that's been happening for generations, right? But if you sit down with them and let's say you look at the challenges they face while making food, right? When your grandmothers or grandfathers, if they when they're making food, if the challenges, if you see the challenges they face, and you ask them more and more questions, you will see that there will be similar problems across all. For example, one of the problem could be that the height of the slab, it may be too high, or another problem could be that they are not for them to say walk across the kitchen, they need like a support. So different groups of people have different problems, and for a specific group of people, so if you call your grandparents as the elderly, for a specific group of people, you need to speak to as many, as possible, and then know more about their personal stories to really understand what are the problems that exist, right? So the first step is called empathize. This process you don't have to do for someone else, you can also do it for yourself, especially when you're solving any problem in your professional career. Right. So definitely one of the common student problems that we've just talked about. Let's pick the one that Nancy was talking about, is uploading assignments on, say, a college portal, right? And there could be so many different kinds of challenges for this. So after you hear all of these stories and understand what all is happening with, all of these people, you need to bring it down to one problem statement, right? So if Nancy was talking about the problem of uploading assignments, and say a lot of other people like Charlotte or Harika or Nisha, all of them said we all have similar problems, a similar problem with uploading assignments, then that is one common issue that you have, and you need to create a problem statement for it. So creating a problem statement is such that in one line the problem has to be explained, right? So taking uploading assignments as an issue, there could be so many things that might happen at that point in time, but we need to define one problem statement. And if we had to do it and as a problem statement, we're going to write it like this. Again, I'm going to share it in the in Discord as well as here very quickly. The problem statement would be equal to, right. So you see, Nancy, if you read that statement, again, you can unmute or you can respond in the chat box. If you read the statement that I put in the chat box, would you would you say that is your major problem? I mean, would you say that explains your problem or the challenge you face?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So now that we have identified exactly the statement, right? This step very simply is called defining the problem. So if you when you do step 1, you are conducting a lot of interviews, you're speaking to a lot of people, you will get so much information. You need to make that concise and make it into one statement, because then when you make it into one statement, then there is a lot of clarity what exactly is the problem that you're trying to solve, right? So when you're trying to make all that information and all those interviews and all those conversations with the target group of people, you are going to look for a pattern, what is common between everybody. So for example, how many of you, and now you have to respond in the chat box, how many of you have faced a problem similar to what Nancy explained, where when she's submitting assignments on the deadline on the platform, it doesn't get uploaded or there is an issue? How many of you have faced a similar problem or the same problem? Say yes, if I have faced in the chat box, if you have faced. this problem? Wait. So all the girls were here. Now what we're going to do. All right. Otherwise, I'm going to call you all out. Sushma, have you faced this problem? Anushka says yes. Vaishnavi, do you face a similar problem? Aishwarya, do you face a similar problem? Priya, do you face a similar problem? Devika, Sriya, Sindhu, Kavya. Yes. Okay, Renuka says yes. Charlotte says yes. Maunika, do you face this problem? Madhuri. Okay, great. So basically, a lot of people face a similar problem. So if you were talking, if Nancy was solving this problem for all the students, or if I was solving this problem for all the students, I have to speak to everyone, and all of them, Sushma, Aishwarya, Renuka, Charlotte, Anushka, would have all shared similar kinds of stories with this. So from that, we've framed a pattern and formed a problem statement. All right. So moving on to the next step. Now, this is where I need y'all to get more interactive. We're going to do this just for 5 minutes. Whoever is on Discord, right? Share your suggestions. How can we solve it? Share your suggestions. So, Nancy, do you have any idea that we could, what kind of idea could probably solve this for you? Have you ever thought of anything that has come to your mind? It can be a very simple solution as well. Don't be shy. Even if you don't have a solution, no problem. That's also a thing to think about for all of us. Anyone has any suggestion? Anyone has any suggestion? Okay. So we have one suggestion saying completing on time without last minute cramming. That is true. That is very true. That is, as students, we all tend to do that, right? Wherein we finish it last minute. Any other ideas or suggestions? So let's take last year's suggestion here. One of the things we could do is maybe have different slots on the platform for different groups of students. What do you think of that suggestion? So let's say instead of having one deadline, right, at 9 p.m., maybe you have, okay, five students at 9 p.m., another five students at 9:30 p.m. Or maybe we have, using another suggestion or idea, could be using a common platform instead of email, right? Using a common platform like Discord or like other platforms to share your outputs. Or maybe, what do you all do? WhatsApp submissions? Ma'am, has anyone submitted on WhatsApp their assignment sometimes?
No, ma'am. Basically, we have Google Classroom, so they upload their assignments there.
Got it. So definitely, maybe, like, I mean, obviously this is not what I'm suggesting for the entire college, but some of the ideas could be, trying, like, apart from Google Classroom, maybe that another feature of Google Classroom where you can write out your own assignments, so that maybe you don't even have to submit it if you use a Google Doc. You just have to share the link, right? So there are different ideas that can come. And once you've identified your problem statement and you have looked at, saying, okay, this is the problem we're going to solve, then the third step is to ideate. Is that everyone, right, can come up with ideas. When I say everyone, the person who's solving it can, and the team of that is solving it. So, for example, if Nancy's solving the problem or I'm solving the problem, together we can come up with as many ideas as possible. So, take like a board, like a whiteboard or a blackboard, and write down all of the ideas, or even on a Google Doc or a Word document, write down all of the ideas that are coming. In this step, it is important to not say no to any idea, right? So how many of you use Gmail? Okay, so Vinata uses Gmail. I hope I said your name correctly. Who else uses Gmail? I'm sure a lot of you use Gmail, right? So when you're using Gmail, did you know that the idea for Gmail came from someone whose actual job was not that? Their actual job was something else at Google, and something related to the Google search, which I'm sure all of you have used, right? And they had some time off and they had arrived at saying, oh, what if we sent messages to each other on the internet? Before any texting or anything happened apart from SMSs, they said, what if we send messages to each other? And Gmail was formed. So, imagine if, when they were probably trying to solve some problem there, and they thought of this idea, they said, no, this is not the actual way to do it. We might not have had email. So it's important to make sure that you never say no to any idea. um, and from the ideas that you get in this step, you need to pick the most, say, the one that seems to come up a lot, or the one that you think is more probable, and then ask people what do they think of it, right? So now, for example, if I take the idea of using another platform to submit um, assignments, and that is the idea or the solution that I think I'm going to try out for the problem of uploading assignments, right? I'm going to speak to a lot of people. I'm going to speak to your faculty, your HODs. I'm going to be speaking to your different kinds of students, not just from your college but from other colleges, and ask them what they think of it, right? So it's important at this step to always take feedback and grow and see what is better, and what more people would be more comfortable to use. So if you see step 1, 2, 3 that we have gone through, we have just spoken to a lot of people continuously, whether it's about the problem or it's about the solution, but we've not created the solution yet, right? So keeping this in mind, um, one of the biggest takeaways for y'all in these 3 steps is to identify that it's important to speak to people and take feedback, whether it's for the problem or for the solution, and not to say no to any idea, but to ask people what they think about it. So I'm going to take a minute to pause. Is everybody on the same page? So I can see that you can raise your hand here. So if all of you can raise your hand and tell me if it's clear. So far, are you clear? Okay. Okay. Good. We have a few students. What about the rest? Great. All right. Okay. So once you arrive at one of your major ideas as such, it is important. it is important to make sure that you detail your idea out, right? So when you are detailing your idea, there are some questions that you need to keep in mind. The people who will use your idea or as a solution, what are the actions they're supposed to do? So if I take my idea of using another platform to speak to upload assignments, I'm going to think of what will Nancy have to do. Okay, so first thing is Nancy has to download that platform. Second thing is Nancy has to make sure she knows where to upload the documents. Third action is that she needs to know how to upload the documents. So these are the actions that the person who's using your solution will have to do, and it's important to think of them, whether it's yourself or whether it's your or your target audience. It's important to make sure that you have that uh, clarity of what actions they will do in what order. The second question that you need to think about is what are the pain points? That is, what challenges does the solution solve? Yes, it solves the problem statement, correct, but it also solves something which is very important, is some of the challenges related to that problem statement for them. So, for example, it will be easier to upload documents. It will be more it will be faster to upload documents. These are certain pain points or challenges that the solution will fix. Finally, what will the customer gain? That is, what will the individual or the person who's using your solution or idea gain? You will need to look at what number one, which is definitely that they will save a lot of time, they will save a lot of stress, they will make sure their work is submitted. So all of these things are the gains as such. And when you've picked your one main idea and you're detailing it out, always make a sample of the idea. So maybe you want to build your own platform, right? Or you want to use another platform. So or you one of the things that you need to do is to create a prototype here. A prototype is an example or a sample of your solution that someone else can use. So maybe you download that app, right? And then you give it to your friends to upload their assignment, so that you can make sure that this your prototype, which is a sample of your solution, is being used by a few people for you to get feedback later. So step 4 is basically prototyping, which is creating a sample of the solution that can be used and tested by people, right? And lastly is you test and take feedback. So when you arrive at your solution, you create a prototype, you share it with people, you ask them, is this working for you? Are you what are the what is the process you're following? Is it troubling you? No, it's working great. What is working for you? All of those kind of questions you need to take active feedback for. So this is step 5, which is test it with your target audience as much as possible. So now, how many of you remember, again, you can use the raise hand feature, how many of you can remember what how many steps were there in this method that I was explaining to you? Okay. And in the chat box or on Discord, can you share with me how many steps were supposed to be there in the chat box? Good job. So there was supposed to be 5 steps, and we've reached the 5th step, right? So we're going to take one more minute and see if you all remember what was the first step. Can you tell me the name of the first step? You can tell me the name of the first step. Step 1 is empathize. That's very good, Lasha. And step 2, anybody else? Step two, step two, define the problem. Correct. Right? So step two is define the problem. Good job, Priya. And then step three is to ideate. Step four is to prototype, and step five is to test. So the framework that, or the tool, or the method, let's call it method, that we have been through over the last 45 minutes or 40 minutes has is called the design thinking process, and this process is used for problem solving. This process is used to come up with different kinds of ideas, and thereby used by a lot of entrepreneurs to build some of the biggest companies that you have seen today, right? So the first step is to empathize. Second step is to define the problem statement. Third is to ideate. Fourth is to prototype, and fifth is to test. Okay, so how many of you are clear with this five-step process? Anyone has any questions? You can raise your hand, or you can ask here. No one has questions? Okay. All right. How many of you use Uber? Or how many of you have heard of Uber? Wait, a few of you have raised questions. Arunima, do you have a question? You can ask in the chat box or unmute and speak, no problem. Okay. Anusha, do you have a question I can answer? Anusha? Okay. Right. So, whoever has used or heard of Uber, raise your hands in the chat box. Okay, we have five so far. What about the rest of you? Six. Come on, Uber you have used or heard. You would have seen the ads. Right. Okay, so that's a lot of, I'm sure most of you have done it. We're going to break down Uber as a company and see what was it that when they launched in 2010, what was the design thinking process they went through. Okay. Like I said, the best of entrepreneurs usually are solving a problem that they have been through themselves. So the problem that the founders of Uber, which is Travis Kalanick and Garrett Camp, had was that they were at a conference and they came out of the hotel and they couldn't find a cab. So in the United States, there was a concept of taxis, right? So these are cabs or taxis that used to be run by individual drivers, and they would be registered with the government and so on. But it was very difficult to find a taxi, especially when they were uh, and they could not call a taxi. They had to come out and wait, and like like how we wait for our auto walas now. Of course, on Uber there's Uber Auto and Uber Moto also. It was very expensive, and there was a lot of waiting time. So it was very uncertain as to when you could get a taxi. Sometimes I'm sure this has happened to you when you've gone out and had to take an auto or a Rapido or a Uber Moto or Ola Moto, and then it took a lot. I mean, unless it was an Uber Moto or an Ola Moto or a Rapido, um, if you had to go out on the road and take an auto, it would take time. You don't know who is coming, how many people are, how many autos are coming, if they will come for the price that you are okay with, and so on. So that was a problem that they were facing. And then Garrett and Travis spoke to a lot of people, conducted interviews, asked for personal stories, and arrived at the problem statement. So, if you see Uber today, it's an app where you can book a small car, a big car, you can book a motorcycle, you can book an auto, and so on. But the first time when Uber was thought of, they wanted to be able to book a luxury car. So, if you've seen limousines, they're these really long cars which were known to be used by very influential people. So, it was through an SMS, right? They were able to book a luxury car like this. That was their first problem statement. Now it's, of course, different and grown, but to hail a luxury car from your phone was the problem statement that they were solving. And step three was, what was their idea? So their idea was that they will go to people who own these really big luxury cars and ask and have their drivers and the people who own them have them lend it for some time with their drivers driving it around. And whenever an SMS from a customer would go, they would then send that nearest driver to that customer. And obviously, they will give the customer information of how much time will the driver reach in, who the driver is, and so on and so forth. This was the idea that they had, arrived at. They built their first prototype. It was called Uber Cab. They built their first prototype, and through their iPhone message or SMS with GPS, they were going to be able to. And this is still not an app fully yet. It was a phone service almost first, right? That was their first prototype, the first sample of this idea that they had tested it. And then in 2010, they tested it out. They had three cars in a very small area in San Francisco, right? And these three cars were the part of the first test run in 2010 for Uber. And then, of course, what you see Uber today is the company it has grown to be in 11 years. So every organization, whether it's big or small, uses this process. Since you all are business studies students, when you go to an MBA college, they teach you this process in detail. If you are interested in running or starting a business, using this process is very helpful. But I also personally use this process, which is the design thinking process, to solve any challenge that I am facing, and it has proven to be effective. So, on that note, I just wanted to say this would be the end of the session. If you have any questions, you can let me know. But other than that, I hope you all have had a good time and you are able to, if anyone speaks to you, you are able to talk to them about the design thinking process, right? So if anyone has questions, no questions, you want to move on to your next class, I'm sure. I know it's 2 minutes to go. So raise your hand if you are clear with the idea of design thinking process. Okay, we have a couple of students here. Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much on that note. Ma'am, over to you for the next steps.
Any questions, girls? Now I request Saleha, Assistant Professor of Business Management Department, BBM, to propose formal vote of thanks.
I, Saleha Ghaffar, Assistant Professor, take the pleasure in proposing vote of thanks. I thank on Principal Dr. J. Achyuta Devi, Vice Principal Dr. Kavita, IIC President Ms. Sinduri for having given us to organize this program. We extend our deep gratitude to Ms. Megha Gajjala for an interesting session on problem solving and ideation. Madam highlighted the application Discord, five-step process of design thinking process, problem solving of and ideation framework. Step 1, empathize. Step 2, define the problem. Step 3, ideate. Step 4, prototype. Step 5, test. And also relating the five steps of problem solving and idea framework with Uber. We once again thank you for a mind blogging session. Thank you, madam.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.